Could we hear from Bill Fisher on behalf of the Blackstone Valley Compassion Center? Blackstone Valley
law currently limits compassion centers in Rhode Island to 3. The bill that Representative McKiernan has sponsored and that we are supporting, 5865, would take that number to 6. We think the time for this discussion is now. There's been a lot of attention to the tax and regulate side of this equation tonight, but I want to give the committee a few numbers because this bill is about patients. This bill does not advance any entity, including my client, but it does advance patients' access to a more affordable and safer medicine. In 06, there were 192 patients. I'm not going to go through every year, but I'm going to give you 4 years. In 2010, 3195. In 2014, 6,213 patients. Last year, 2016, 16,418 patients. All right, so we're seeing a trend of 3,000 to 4,000 patients a year. The trend is going up, and yet we have 3 compassion centers and 3 compassion centers only. And tip of the hat to them, they've built a business model. It's working. They're providing medicine. We're talking about medicine to patients. But if we lived in a state where there was a CVS only in Providence, Warwick, and Portsmouth, I think people would be outside with pitchforks. This is about access to medicine, and it will be daunting to enter this market. If the bill is approved, we'll have to go before DBR and DOH, and there is a regular application process, and it won't just be my client applying for such a license. My clients have a long history on the caregiver side of this equation, and they have a long history. In fact, they were the first testers in Rhode Island. Last year, we pushed very hard to bring more testing and more regulation into this dynamic. And we've had the opportunity to confer with Mr. Birnbaum from DBR recently, who tells me testing regulations are on the way, and I think that's a good thing. Again, we're talking about medicine, and this should be a safe and reliable product. And there's probably no safer and more reliable place to get it if proper testing standards are in place than at a compassion center. Competition is not a new economic theory. Competition reduces cost. Joanne testified earlier that she's seeing higher trends in prices in Rhode Island compared to other states. That shouldn't be. There is no insurance coverage that covers this type of medicine. And so we're arguing that the time is now, with the trends that are going forward, 3,000, 4,000 patients a year increase. It seems to me that this is a question of if, not of if, but of when. And again, we think the time is now for this discussion to move forward. We are following the tax and regulate and debate in this House. Obviously, it is something we'd like to see go forward, but our main push this year is to expand compassion centers. When I think about this bill, and I know you're probably going to hear some testimony from the existing compassion centers who are opposed to it, I can't think of one plausible reason how defeat of this bill would benefit patients. It may or may not benefit my client. We may or may not get a license. I'm sure there'll be plenty of entities that come out and try to apply for this. But it certainly will benefit patients. That is a fact. More competition, more access, and by the way, more variety, or the industry term is strain, because certain strains align themselves with certain maladies, and that is important to understand. And when you cannot find those strains at certain compassion centers, as Joey pointed out, you do go to the black market. When you cannot find affordable medicine, maybe you do go to the black market. I think expansion of compassion centers this year is an opportunity to address a lot of concerns that you've heard previously. I appreciate your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Representative Vella-Wilkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In those states that do have compassion centers, what is the typical ratio of patients to compassion center?
Probably Mr. Birnbaum may have that. We could certainly look that up for you, but I can tell you with a cursory look that I've done, it varies. There doesn't seem to be a standard. And I'm glad you asked this question, because when this conversation started years ago, I don't think there was anything magical about 3. Nobody said, we've done this, deep analysis and 3 is the perfect number. We were dipping our toe into this world, and we didn't know how the feds were going to react to it. And so we dipped our toe in with 3. Fast forward 5 years later, fast forward 15,000 more patients. I think it's time to take a look at expansion, and I think it's time to think about addressing the cost drivers and concerns that we're hearing about. And that patient, Mr. Chairman, in Burrillville, is that is driving down to Providence, and that can be a long trip if you're sick and you're not feeling good. I'm not trying to be a consummate Rhode Islander here that 20 minutes is too far to drive, but when you're not feeling well, you want to go to that corner CVS and you want to get your prescription and you want to go home and take care of how you're feeling.
I'll be very happy the day that Burrillville is 20 minutes from Providence. So.
Thought I'd give a Burrillville reference this evening in my testimony.
Just a follow-on question. When the public testimony occurred a number of years ago with regards to medical marijuana and the compassion centers and the growing centers, I made a point of attending them. I'll let you know that I'm in the city of Warwick, and the compassion center and the growing center is actually in my ward, and it was so when I was on the city council. So I understand the regulation and the use of medical marijuana fully.
Yeah.
If the General Assembly were to legalize marijuana, would there still be a place for the compassion centers and the growing centers, or would it just be as easy for these folks in Woonsocket or in Westerly to purchase it locally?
I can point you to Colorado. When Colorado brought Tax and Regulate online, they saw an increase in their medical side. Both went up. And there was a copious study done, and I can get that for you, but the medical marijuana in Colorado did not decline because of legalization on the recreational side of this discussion.
I would like that information.
I will get that study for you, Representative.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Any further questions for Mr. Fisher?